Imagine this. A scientist gets a call from a friend. The voice is serious, no small talk. Just one sentence. "Sirius, meet me in the parking lot now." He goes. The trunk of the car opens. Inside is an old brown bag. And in that bag, a small black block. Cold, heavy, wrapped in paper towels like it's something dangerous. With it is a creepy note that looks like it came from a ransom letter. It reads, "Taken from Germany, from the nuclear reactor Hitler tried to build." Surprised? What? That little cube may have been part of Nazi Germany's secret nuclear program. A program that, if it had worked, could have changed the world forever. Thoughtful. So, how did this cube get to America? Why did it disappear for decades? And how many more are still out there? This isn't just history, it's a real-life mystery. And the deeper you go, the more chilling it gets. It was a hot day in August 2013. Physicist Timothy Koith had just finished a jog when his phone rang. "Quiet. Meet me in the parking lot. Now." Koith knew the caller. It was a friend. But something felt different this time. He arrived at the parking lot. The car engine was running. No hello, no small talk. The trunk opened. Inside was a worn-out brown bag. From it, his friend pulled out something small, about the size of a baseball. It was wrapped in paper towels, looked simple, like a paperweight. But when Koith picked it up, he felt it immediately. It was unusually heavy, cold, solid, not normal. Then he saw the note. The letters looked like they were cut from different magazines, like a ransom note. It said, "Taken from Germany, from the nuclear reactor Hitler tried to build. Gift of Nininger." Koith froze. He knew the name, Robert Nininger, a top uranium expert from the Manhattan Project during World War II. If this note was real, if this cube was real, he was holding a piece of Nazi Germany's secret nuclear plan. In a 2024 interview, Koith said, "Thoughtful. I wasn't just holding uranium, I was holding a question, one that had never been answered. What happened to the Nazi uranium cubes?" That moment changed everything. Koith made a decision. He wouldn't just study the cube, he would search for the others, and what he uncovered would take him on a 10-year journey. A journey into one of history's deepest and darkest mysteries. To understand the cube in Koith's hands, we have to go back, way back to 1945, the final days of World War II. In a small town in southern Germany called Hagerloch, something strange was happening. Under a church, hidden behind thick stone walls, Nazi scientists were trying to build something powerful. Not a bomb, not a weapon, but something that could lead to both. A nuclear reactor. The man in charge? Werner Heisenberg, one of the world's top physicists. You may have heard of him from the uncertainty principle in science, but during the war, he was working for Hitler. Inside that hidden lab, they had built a machine that looked almost like art. From the ceiling, they hung 664 black uranium cubes, each about 2 inches wide and weighing 5 pounds. They weren't decoration. They were arranged in a special pattern, meant to hang inside heavy water, a special liquid that slows down particles to help create nuclear energy. Their goal? Start a chain reaction, the first step to creating a nuclear bomb. But the experiment failed. The reactor never worked. It never reached critical mass. So what went wrong? First, they ran out of heavy water. A group of brave fighters from Norway blew up the supply in a secret mission called Operation Gunnerside. Second, the uranium wasn't enriched. That means it didn't have enough of the powerful stuff, uranium-235, needed to make a bomb. Third, the program was falling apart. Germany kicked out many of its best scientists, especially Jewish ones. That weakened the team. Plus, the government kept changing its plans. Even though the project failed, parts of it still remain. If you visit that church in Hagerloch today, you can still see drill holes in the stone and radiation marks on the walls, proof that the experiment was real. And that cube in Koith's hands? It likely came from this very place. It all started in December 1938, before anyone knew how powerful atoms could really be. In a lab in Berlin, 2 German scientists, Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, were doing tests on uranium. They thought they'd create new heavy elements, but instead something strange happened. The uranium broke apart into barium, a much lighter element. This didn't make sense. Nothing in science explained it. Confused, Hahn sent a letter to his old friend, Lisa Meitner, a physicist who had escaped Nazi Germany because she was Jewish. She was now hiding in Sweden. While walking in the snow with her nephew, she figured it out. The atom hadn't just changed, it had split apart. It was the world's first proof of nuclear fission. Using just chalk and the snow, she did the math and realized something incredible. Even a tiny amount of uranium could release a huge amount of energy, enough to cause a massive explosion. In January 1939, she and her nephew published their findings. At first, people didn't understand how big this was, but one scientist, Niels Bohr, carried the news to America, and that's when things changed. Suddenly, labs in Europe and the US were racing to confirm it. That moment changed physics forever. It wasn't just about science anymore, it was about power. Whoever controlled nuclear fission could control the future. In 1945, Nazi Germany was falling apart. But the uranium cubes, the scientists, and the research were still there. That's when the Allies made their move. A secret team called Operation Alsos was created. It wasn't made of soldiers, it was made of scientists and spies. Their mission? Find and shut down Germany's nuclear program before the Soviets got to it. Led by physicist Samuel Gaudsmit, the team followed the front lines through Europe. In April 1945, they reached Hagerloch, the small town where the Nazi reactor was hidden under a church. Inside, they found something shocking. A metallic setup that looked like a strange chandelier. 664 uranium cubes, each hanging on wires, soaking in heavy water. This was Germany's biggest nuclear experiment, and it had failed. The Alsos team took everything: the cubes, the heavy water, and the notes. They also arrested top Nazi scientists, including Werner Heisenberg. Later, the US sent those scientists to Britain under Operation Epsilon. There, their secret conversations were recorded to see how close they had come to building a bomb. But here's where it gets weird. The US Department of Energy confirmed that the team collected over 3,300 pounds of uranium, but they didn't track all of it. Some cubes were sent to American labs, some went to universities, some may have gone to military contractors, and some just vanished. No records, no trace. As of 2025, only 15 to 20 of the original 664 cubes have been found. The rest, still missing. After finding the strange cube in 2013, physicist Timothy Koith knew he had something special. But one big question remained. Where were the rest? To find out, Koith teamed up with Dr. Miriam Hurt, a scientist who studied radioactive materials. Together, they began a real-life treasure hunt, not for gold or jewels, but for lost uranium cubes from Nazi Germany. Their first step? Test the cube. Using advanced tools like gamma spectroscopy, X-ray scans, and isotope analysis, they proved something huge. This cube really did come from Nazi Germany's secret nuclear reactor, made between 1943 and 1944. It was the real thing. That proof was the start of something much bigger. Koith and Hurt decided to search for more cubes, wherever they might be. They contacted labs, universities, collectors, even museums across the US and Europe, and the discoveries were shocking. One cube was found inside a radiation cabinet at Los Alamos, where the first US atomic bomb was built. Another was sitting mislabeled in a university storage room. One was even listed on eBay, described as a metal paperweight. It was clear these cubes were everywhere, and no one knew how many were still out there. Koith and Hurt weren't just solving a mystery anymore. They were working to protect the future. Because these cubes, though not bombs themselves, were part of the first steps toward nuclear weapons. And knowing where they are today is important for safety and history. Their mission became more than science. It became a search for truth and responsibility. You might wonder, if the cubes didn't explode, why do they still matter today? Here's the truth. The cubes aren't weapons. They can't explode by themselves. But they're made of natural uranium, which is the starting material for nuclear bombs. If someone has the right equipment, like centrifuges, they can enrich uranium and turn it into something deadly. Since 2010, experts have tracked at least 18 cases of illegal uranium trafficking. Some of those were in Eastern Europe and North Africa. That means people are still trying to buy and sell this material on the black market. But there's an even bigger risk, something called a dirty bomb. It's not a nuclear explosion. It's a bomb that spreads radioactive material over a city using regular explosives. It doesn't flatten buildings, but it could make places unsafe to live, cause panic, and shut down major parts of a city. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says this is now one of the top threats in big cities, especially places that don't have strong radiation monitoring. And here's what's really scary. There's no global registry for the Nazi uranium cubes, no official list, no way to know how many are in labs, basements, or private collections. Some might be mislabeled in storage rooms. Others could be in someone's house, totally forgotten. And a few might be for sale online, with no warning about what they are. That's not just a science problem, it's a security problem. These cubes might be old, but they still carry a dangerous legacy. The Nazi uranium cubes never powered a bomb. Their nuclear reactor never worked. Germany failed to win the race for atomic weapons, but that didn't stop history from changing. Why? Because the fear that Hitler might get the bomb was enough to make the Allies act fast, very fast. That fear led to the Manhattan Project, the largest secret science program in U.S. history. It involved over 130,000 people, cost more than $34 billion in today's money, and created the first atomic bombs. Those bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. The result? Tens of thousands dead in seconds, entire cities wiped out, and the start of a new, dangerous world. To physicists like Timothy Koeth, the uranium cubes aren't just leftovers from a failed Nazi experiment. They're symbols of how fear alone can launch massive global change. They help spark the arms race, shape Cold War policy, and push science into the age of destruction. And today, the Cold War is over, but the threat isn't gone. As of 2025, more than 13,000 nuclear weapons still exist around the world, and radioactive material, including missing uranium cubes, keeps popping up in labs, basements, and storage closets. The cubes are no longer just part of history. They're reminders of what almost happened, and what still could. They were forged in secret, buried in fear, and nearly forgotten. But their story isn't over. It's still being written, one missing cube at a time. So now we ask, what if Nazi Germany had succeeded? What if just one of those uranium cubes had helped start a working nuclear reactor, or something worse? The truth is, we may never know how close they really came. But we do know this: the fear of those cubes helped shape the modern world, not because they worked, but because everyone was afraid they might. And today, with most of those cubes still missing, their story isn't over. It's still unfolding, in labs, storage rooms, and maybe even someone's basement. What do you think? Were the Nazis ever close to building a bomb? Could more cubes still be out there, waiting to be found? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found this story wild or chilling, do us a favor. Tap like, hit subscribe, and click the next video on your screen to keep uncovering secrets from history. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that almost happened.